now listening to The Real.
Man, I appreciate them dudes for talking about
The Raw.
Wait, they were talking about
The Relatable.
That's exactly what I've been going through.
The Relentlessly Real Podcast.
Welcome to the Relentlessly Real Podcast, where we discuss real, raw, and relatable topics. Thank you for taking time to listen to our podcast today. Let's kick this off with some introductions. My name is John, and
I'm Antonio.
And I'm Terrence.
And we have a special guest today that I'm super excited about. Miss Alecia is on the line with us. Hey, Alecia.
Hi.
So listen, guys. So we have this particular podcast episode is going to be for everyone dealing with COVID and everything like that. We're going to talk about depression today. Like, we're going to deal with some kind of heavy topics to hopefully help everyone cope with this different kind of issue that it's unprecedented, never dealt with it before. We want to make sure we provide some level of information of how to deal with the depression you're going to go through, what have you. But so before we get to any of that, how you guys been doing with all this COVID stuff going on? Let's start with T. T, how you feeling, man?
Man, it's been the only good thing that's came out of it is that I've done a lot of projects. I pretty much painted my basement, which I'm in now. I've painted my living room, mounted a few ceiling fans, bought a new TV, mounted a TV. I've done a lot of projects. But still trying to run.
Did you have a house before COVID?
I did have a house.
You're putting up fans and walls.
Yeah, man. And I just spoke to one of my friends, my principal's husband, who knows how to build a deck, because I might even build a deck since we're gonna be out for another month.
Okay, enough, Terrence. Enough.
Sure.
You're not about to build a deck.
I'm serious. He does it.
But you say you're about to build a deck,
which means not by myself, Jonathan.
Okay.
He's going to help me build a deck.
You over here
won't go out
spreading
there.
lies. I'm about to say I ain't letting you go spread that lie, brother. No,
He's gonna
you're not building a deck.
Listen, you know what? My wife said the same thing. She didn't think I could do a lot. She was like, "Jesus, you really are handy. Like, what you think? Like, what you thought?"
You know, all this is gonna play against you when you're like, "I don't know how to do that." And you're like, "But you built this wall and you put out the TV and you painted this." Yeah, you just wait till COVID's over. She's like, "I want a brand new house and I want you to build it."
Right.
I thought about that. I want a garden with a greenhouse. You can do it
With a raised bed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I act like I don't know how to do nothing. I'm like, I have no clue.
I'm with you, John.
That keeps me safe. What about you, Tom? What's up, man?
I'm good. Being a slight introvert has helped. Don't really care that much that I'm not leaving the house, but I at least want some warm weather. Other than that, I'm good.
When's the last time you left the house?
I think last Sunday, we went to the grocery store.
Wow, man.
Yeah, and that was it.
I'm in the grocery store every day.
Yes, be pissing me off.
Oh,
She be pissing me off. Don't you want to go? No, you go.
nope.
But you're my protector.
We go inside the grocery store once every 2 weeks. We do Target pickup, curbside pickup, if we need some light. But yeah,
Literally every day I've been out. Like
every day.
Maybe one. It's been more so that like 1 or 2 days I haven't been out. But for the most part, I'm going to the grocery. Well, I don't know why. I think I need.
Do you not go on the grocery list?
No, we do. But man, we spend hundreds of dollars and still be like, man, we forgot the watermelon. We got to go get the watermelon. So we got to go back out.
Watermelon.
When you have a daughter that's like, I want melon, and she say it over and over and over and over and over again, you get the melon.
That's different. That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. What about you, Lisa? What's going on with you?
We are currently at my in-laws' house, so I'm grateful that we have some place to stay. But it would be nice to, I guess, have our own space, or
Definitely
be traveling like we were. So but other than that, I'm grateful just to have some place to stop.
Can I just pause real quick? Yeah, we have all the types of headphones and computer set up, and Alecia got the Apple joints, and them joints are so clear.
Right.
It's not Apple.
whatever they are, they're like they came with the phone, and it's just so clear. Everything she said was like every syllable was enunciated. Like
I do hear her better than I hear anything else that I hear her great.
Oh, yay! Samsung for the win.
Okay.
Samsung?
Yeah, don't do this.
All right.
We knew that. Oh, really? If we knew that, we probably wouldn't have said nothing. But anyway, just kidding. So anyway, yeah, man, I feel you on that. Like, I know you guys, you travel a lot. Like, can you explain to the audience that doesn't know you, like, kind of what you and your husband are doing right now?
Sure. So last March, we decided that we were going to full-time RV. I mean, it started because we were living in DC and the prices were rising where we were living and we couldn't afford it. And so we were trying to figure out how we could travel, but also like save money and create more margin for ourselves. So we moved into an RV, and from last June until literally like January, we've been traveling the country. So we've been to Colorado, New Mexico, that far west, over back to Florida. And then we came up here, and then that's when everything, fell apart. So
how has that been? Y'all been loving that? Or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No. So it's been really cool to travel. I think we didn't really expect for travel to be so taxing. I think it could be really exhausting, like just being on the go all the time, not being around like your people, also not knowing what area you're really in, what kind of people you're dealing with in the places that we're going. And it also gets kind of expensive. So even though we started this experiment with like, oh yeah, let's save some money. When you count gas, especially with RVs, like I think we get like 12 miles per gallon on the thing.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But it's good right now, right? Because I mean, the gas is like what, $1 now or something?
Yeah, but I mean, we can't go anywhere because now like the campgrounds and stuff are closed. So
I was wondering why you were staying with family. So campgrounds are closed. That's why.
Yeah.
Got you. That's crazy. So what do other people do when they have RVs and they gotta go back home or something? Like they don't have a home. That's their home, right?
Yeah. Some people, they actually like they live like they don't have anywhere else to go. So some of them live like on BLM land. So it's like Bureau Land Management. Like it's just like just open spaces or like in forests and stuff like that. But people also live in parking lots. People also live like on streets. It's kind of like it's crazy because it's glorified. Like RVing is so like, oh, it's this is really luxurious, but people are literally living in their cars because they don't have anywhere else to live. You know what I'm saying? Like, so even like we were talking earlier about like our YouTube channel and stuff, our goal was not to glamorize it and to make it seem like, oh yeah, let's, everybody should get an RV and just, do the thing. Like, no, we did it because it's what we could afford. But also like people like really trying to highlight other people who are living day to day, like just in their vehicles. So it's been really complicated for a lot of people who are RVing or living in their cars or vans. So yeah,
it's pretty dope. I watched a couple episodes, so it's pretty dope to see how real you guys get, with the challenges and the real of living the RV life.
Yeah.
So that's pretty dope.
Hey, Alecia, drop your information via YouTube for people to follow you for the RV.
Oh, sure. So on YouTube, it's The Adventures of Fox and Miles. Those are like our aliases because people are, creepy. So we just wanted to use those names. So yeah, The Adventures of Fox and Miles. Yeah. Got you.
Love it. So anyway, we are going in the midst of the COVID, guys. We are deep into it. We wanted to make sure that we continue to create podcast episodes for everyone to be able to listen to and be able to enjoy, what we normally would be having from week to week or every other week. We would be discussing various topics and things. And we want to keep things going. As you guys know, Mike is not a part of the podcast for the next couple of weeks until he graduates from, getting a PhD or something. He's becoming a pastor or something, I believe. And so with that, we have our boy Tony filling in, and he's been helping us out a lot, and I've been really appreciative of that. So Tony's gonna do our trending topic for today. Tony, you can hit it, man.
So recently something came up, I think through TikTok, which is a new social media thing, where there was this young Caucasian couple that thought it would be funny to put together how to make a nigger. So they go in the bathroom and they are like dumping all the things in the sink that would make a nigger. which is like, don't have a job, rob people, um, just a lot of different things. They're black, um, and it's pretty much stirring up the black community. We haven't had anything like this in a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty crazy. If you want to find it on Instagram, just type in hashtag how to make a nigger, and it should pop up.
There's some people who can't wait to type that in. Oh yeah, I can't wait to type that. I can type that.
Right. You can type.
Hey, what do you think about it?
So I just as a school administrator, like, you two are the dumbest people I've ever seen in my life, like, on the planet. I don't understand these kids. And before I judge them, I don't know what I would have done if I was 14, 15, 16, 17, and there was social media. So I'm really not judging. But at the same time, you have to understand the times that you're living in. Like, you can't post that. Like, you shouldn't think it. You shouldn't record it. But God, it's your free mind. You could maybe send it to a friend. I wouldn't even advise that. But you posted it yourself. Like,
yeah, they went in like eat fried chicken and watermelon. Don't have a dad.
Wow.
And then the interesting part was when they went to make good decisions, there was nothing to pour in to pretty much say that we don't make good decisions.
Wow.
Yeah, that was like.
What did you think about it, Tom?
It was. I said wow first, and I was like, you know what? This is a problem only because they're Caucasian.
Like, yep. You think if a black person did that post, you don't think that he wouldn't get the same heat? He or she?
Somewhat, but I think we will use the word, a different word. Not saying it's okay. That's not what I'm saying.
He would be Uncle Tom. He would be considered Uncle Tom. He's ostracized by the black community.
Yeah, I wish it didn't happen, but people are stupid. You still live in a time where privilege is a huge thing.
Yeah.
You have people that think, oh, it's freedom of speech. I don't have to care about anybody else. This is what I want to say. So I am glad that there were repercussions to it.
What were the repercussions?
They got expelled from their school.
Like the next day.
Yeah, like almost immediately they got expelled for it. It wasn't this huge like political thing where they got to do all this background research and
let me tell you, you know the hoops you have to go through to expelling somebody is different from like suspending to the board or like to expel somebody. That means they are not invited back to a school in that district. Right. Like your education no longer matters. That's basically what they said.
So and they got to go to another school. They got to go to another
school.
To,
I don't know
if they can find one.
They would have to go to private school at this point. In other words, that public school system is no longer concerned with their education. Yep. You have been removed, and like that is a process. And to do it in less than 24 hours, like bravo to that school district to make that decision. Wow. And then like you're not even in school right now, like. Right. You are the dumbest people I've ever seen. You lost your job on the day off. Like, right. Craig.
Well, begs the question. I mean, and I'm not on the defense of this particular conversation, but it begs the question: how much reach does the school have on, like, when it's a matter of the home? Like, it's something that happens at home. Obviously, it's on video, but isn't that a little bit farther than the reach?
It's called scope of authority. So, like your scope of authority, if it impacts the safety and well-being of the people at your school, you have a right to assign disciplinary actions.
Yep.
And most of those kids have probably signed some form of a handbook. The parents have probably find some, if it's a great school district, some sort of handbook, and where they've like agreed to, they probably haven't read it. That's how our kids are. They don't read it. They just
don't read policies.
No, they don't. Yeah, that's the school.
Because I pay taxes. This is my home. You can't do anything about it. Like it shines light on so many other problematic areas.
Mm-hmm. That's going to lead to a fight. Like they would go back to if they were actually in school, it's going to lead to a community issue. People knew who they were. I mean, their names are viral. Matter of fact, I should highlight their names so people can know. So because I want them to never get a job.
Yeah. And I actually they actually saying the actual N-word.
Yes.
And they wrote it down. They're literally showing the N-word. That's the hashtag. They're saying it. They're showing it.
Jeffrey Hume and Stephanie Freeman. And the girl Stephanie Freeman, there is such a common name that other people have put out videos saying, "I am not her."
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I am a 30-year-old woman with a job. Yeah. Please stop following me.
Like, that's crazy.
Like,
what do you think? Any thoughts you have, Alecia, to this topic?
I mean, I didn't know they were in high school because they look grown to me. But I mean, so that there's a certain amount of, I guess, like, oh, they're childish. But at the same time, it's like, even if they are childish, they're still of age to be able to form their own opinions, to even though that, you know, they say like your brain's not fully developed until you're like into your 20s.
Yeah.
I still feel like at 16, 15, 14, 17, I was not thinking of doing stuff like this to other people. And then also it speaks to like what their parents are doing. You're not getting this from yourself. Like, this is generational. So these ideas and beliefs that you hold come from your parents or whoever you're directly, you know, affected by. And hopefully their parents are brought to themselves and saying, dang, how could I have raised my children better? But but I'm not surprised because racism is still a thing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a huge thing.
So.
Have you encountered any racism like in the past month that you
traveling?
Yeah.
Not direct, like not like, oh, nigger. It's like you know when you walk in a room and like you're not wanted or like you being looked at sideways. And even, which is surprising, but I guess not really, when we were in New Mexico, even like the Native American community or the indigenous people, like I'm like, oh, people of color. And then it's like, actually, no, you're still calm yourself down. Like you're still black. So yeah.
That's crazy. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I still have viewpoints of how I interact with certain people. I'm just like, you could never relate. We could get along great. But as far as like holding a true friendship.
It's funny. Like where was this video when we did the N-word podcast? Like,
right. I was literally thinking
like perfect.
We just talked about it. Like literally just talked about it. So that's funny to me.
That's great.
Well, I mean, I think overall, it just seems like the culture today, man, they ain't scared, bro. They just not scared. Like, think about the fact that they just put it right on the social media.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
it hasn't changed. This is how it was years ago.
Yeah.
It has not changed. And like Alecia said, their parents, this is brewed in the family culture, in their family, like value systems and morals. Like, it's just carrying on.
Not to elaborate on this too much, but like, does that necessarily mean that the parents, you know what I mean, feel the same way as the kids, you know?
I would say 90% of the time.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult, like more things are caught than taught. And so it's very difficult for strong beliefs to come up like that. And I'm not saying no, but it is either you're negligent, which means you've allowed it to grow up and you weren't cognizant of it, of what they're watching, what they're thinking, or it's direct and you directly taught it to them. So I think there's still failures on both sides, like, you know.
And even like this idea of the privilege of being able to call people the audacity, you know what I'm saying? Like that in itself is taught. Like not necessarily like maybe their parents aren't necessarily like, oh yeah, we're racist and whatever. But you give your children this amount of leeway, you know what I'm saying, to be able to do ridiculous stuff without any regard for anybody else or thinking about consequences to their actions. That's still like the parents' fault. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point, sure, children do wild stuff because they just wild.
Absolutely.
But like, yeah, no, like you instill fear into your children for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And not like, you know, being afraid to live life, but fear is in like, oh, there are consequences to your actions and you're going to have to deal with your actions. But I feel like a lot of people who are privileged don't really have to think about their actions because they're bailouts. There are things that they can just get away with. And so.
Yeah, that's real true, man. I mean, I think overall, we just got to be more. I think we have to have that conversation more frequently too. Like we gotta stop acting like the N word is just not being said or felt and thought amongst the minds of everyone. You know what I mean? And we had a very important conversation about that a couple weeks ago. But at the same time, I feel like we got to do a better job as a culture. You know what I mean? Because like people are really still feeling the same way that people felt 50, 60 years ago. Nothing's really changed, but I feel like nothing's really changed because we don't really bring it up. We just kind of act like it's like you must not be thinking that way because time is, quote unquote, time heals all wounds type thing, but it really doesn't.
But the other thing is like, what are we doing to change anything? You have a large percentage of blacks that want to change the stereotype, that want to change how we're viewed. But then you have a large percentage of people that's just like, whatever, and when you look at TV, what are you seeing? So like, I hate watching Love and Hip Hop because I'm just like, yo, what? This is like so upsetting, disgusting. All this drama between us, like, why? Like, I will watch anything that puts down the Caucasian community and love it. Like,
Equity.
love it.
What in the Carol Baskin?
I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Since I've been home, because my wife watches that stuff, and I be sitting there like, "Yo, how do they keep getting season after season, and they all supposed to hate each other? Don't y'all hate each other?
I walk away.
Actually, that's one of my guilty pleasures. I just like the sociology of it all. I like relationships and like stuff like that.
Alecia, I'm not gonna lie. I think in all my years, I would never have expected you to say that. I'm like, actually, maybe.
Are we judging her now?
No, that's a good thing because we've known Alecia for quite some time. So if I was to ask Alecia what shows you're watching right now, and Love and Hip Hop would not be what it was. That would not be one that would come out like.
Yeah.
I think like some Karen, like
sociologically, like that's when it like bothers me.
Yeah. I
like,
got
if
you.
I'm not thinking like that, then it's just like, oh, whatever. But then it's just like what we're talking about. It's like, okay, we already have a destroyed image in this set group's mind.
Yeah.
And then you look at TV, all over TV or whatever you're looking at, you're still seeing it. And it's just like, we get mad that this stuff is still happening, but we are still falling into that trap.
The reality, though, is that they're securing the bag. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt Alecia, but they're securing the bag. They're making money, off of these. That's the roots, right? Like, of course, they're looking stupid on TV, but the real question for real is if you were presented with a bag that looks like 5, 10, 15, 20 million on TV show, and all I gotta do is be like, Terrence, you ain't shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just go in.
What would you do for your Klondike bar? Like,
what would you do? Would you do that for the bag, or would you be like, nah, I'm not subjecting myself for my community to that level of.
John, what would you do was actually a good segue.
Yes, I actually, and thank you.
I thought about that, like
alley-oop. So actually, I have a new segment, guys, and it's not so new anymore because I'm not gonna say that no more. It's not new anymore, but I have a segment called "What Would You Do?" And so my first question to you is: would you rather look 10 years older from the neck up or the neck down?
What? I was 10 years older from the neck
up or the neck
down. Alecia, you go first.
I was sitting here like, I'm gonna see what they say.
Like for the neck up or neck down,
I think it's interesting because women's bodies are just different. They're just different. They're built different. They change all the time. I guess I would say neck up. I'm not really afraid of aging in my face. I think, but I want my body to be healthy. As I haven't, Lord willing, had children yet. So let's, keep that as young as possible.
Oh, that's okay. That makes sense.
Terrence or
I'll go. I would say the neck up.
You would rather look older from the neck up, or?
Because I'm good. I'm already bald. Like what else is there?
There's not much left.
I look like my dad, so what else is there? I at least want to be able to, like, if I want to start working out actively, not have to work as hard.
Yeah.
and things like that.
T.
I mean, 10 years.
You're already
I'll
old,
be
so
30. I'll be 30. So I mean, that's not.
You'll be
I'm
what?
20. I'm 20. So
Bruh,
10 years up would be.
you're 45 now. So 10 years from now will be 55.
For all
Baby
three
boomer.
of you all see this middle finger. I think I'm the opposite.
What's your
I want to keep my face looking young, so
face?
I can look 10 years older, look neck down, because I can still work out and stuff like that. Like there's people who are like who are like fit.
Yeah, I'm fighting against a dad bod, so I don't want a dad bod at all. So I'm gonna say neck down too. I don't care how I look up top. I mean, I am what I am. You know what I'm saying? And I already done got my wife, and Bay already know what it is. I look like a wolf right now. So if she could take me for right now, she could definitely take me looking 10 years old.
A wolf is a little too light, John.
Hey,
more like
you good?
More like a abominable snowman.
Is there anything you can describe though, or you can compare it to for John?
No, it's called indescribable. Next question. Would you rather have 3 kids and no money or no kids with $3 million?
Well, because you didn't phrase that question right, I will take no kids and $3 million because I can still have children.
No, you can't. Why do y'all keep saying that? Would you rather have the question right?
You didn't take that out.
Listen, 3 kids and no money. You have no possibility of making any money. You have 3 kids, or no kids with $3 million. You
can never have a child,
huh?
And you can never have a child.
You can never have a child.
You can't make any money
if you have to look for loopholes that I've already made clear, Tony. You can't make any money, and you can't have no kids on either side of the spectrum.
You go first.
Who? Me?
You.
Nah, I gotta think about this. I actually would say something surprising, but I want to see what y'all say. So what do you say, T? You got 2 kids right now.
Dang, I know, man.
Would you want the money or the kids?
That's not enough money. I think I'll pick my kids. That's not enough money.
That's the reason?
Yeah. That's honest.
So there's an amount. That's what I want to make sure.
Listen, there's an amount that I would do away with stress, and my kids are definitely like I would be in the billions. I think before I would get rid of my kids.
Alecia, you got future kids. What you thinking? Your future kids trade off for $1 million.
Future kids
for $3 million.
I think $3 million isn't a lot. It's not like when you really think, especially in the DMV, that's not a lot of money. So
at all.
I think, the heart in me is like kids, but then it's like I could have $3 million and then maybe with the potential of making more money, be able to maybe adopt kids. I don't know if that's still like, an option. I don't know the rules, but
I could buy a kid.
Whoa. Relentlessly podcast does not endorse the views of Dr. Terrence at all. Okay, and that was Terrence Robinson. All right, I don't buy kids. So what you think, man?
I don't know. Like I'm stuck between the two. Like because I'm thinking like Alecia. Like I was thinking like adoption, and then I was thinking like $3 million is not a lot. And the love of a child will outweigh having the money.
Come on.
And that's actually surprisingly what I was gonna say. Like after having a child, I could never. But I feel like that's the one part of this question is like, well, do you already have a child or?
Yeah.
If you don't have a child, you probably would like give me that $3 million for real. But if after having one, you like start to see a child but develop and whatever, you like, man, I can't. I love my kid. So
if I can switch it, like it's easy if I picture it with not having kids, but as soon as I hear it, it's like, okay, the kids I already have are now gone. So it's like instantly like that makes me say no. Yeah. But if I could go back 7 years and didn't have any kids, I feel like I would struggle with that like a little bit more. Like,
give me that.
Give me that bread. Like,
But, I mean, I get government assistance, so I'll take the kids.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So here we go. Last question. I think Terrence kind of alluded to it. But he said that. So the third one I have is: would you rather continue with your life or restart it?
Oh, restart.
Terrence says restart.
Restart.
I gotta know. You said it quick. I want to know why.
There's so many things I would have. I mean, I probably would have done. I would have probably done school quicker. I would have changed that. There's so many things I would like restart. Like, you know.
Got you.
There's so many things.
Alecia, what you think?
You mean like from birth?
Yeah, you start all over. Like, would you rather continue with the life you have right now or start all the way over?
Would I have the knowledge I have now?
No, you just.
Oh well, then I'm just keep going because I mean I'm probably
the same thing I already did.
Oh yes, no, you ain't share that little tidbit. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going.
That's how I feel.
Y'all are hilarious.
Is my life going to happen the same way, and I'm able to make different decisions?
Right.
You can make.
Or is this like?
You just won't have the knowledge of the decisions that you made this life.
I'm gonna make some other dumb ones.
Exactly.
and then let's edit. Am I restarting in 2020?
You're restarting from 1972 when you were born.
Yeah, that's different. Oh.
That was too easy.
Good.
I just want y'all to know I'm an 80s baby. That's what people out there. I'm just older than them.
When you was fighting with Dr. King, you would just stop fighting with him and just do whatever else you was going to do.
I would keep going.
Yeah.
That changes my thing. Like I have to start over right now. No, if I was a kid living in 2020, I probably would have gone viral so many times. I made a lot of dumb decisions like without social media. So
I think life sucks for kids now. They don't go outside. Yeah. They don't do anything. Like everything has just changed. Like I would go on 3-hour bike rides, like with a couple friends, and come back before my mom got off, and like nothing ever happened.
I threw so many house parties. My mom said she was going out of town, and I threw a party all the time.
What'd you say, T?
I said I threw so many house parties with my mom. She follows us too. Oh shoot! So
what were you saying?
Nothing. Ignore that.
I feel that, man. I actually would start over though. I don't really know. It's a good question to at least think about. Because I'm like, man, I would make different decisions, but I would have hoped that I would still lead to the same spouse and kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as far as like, man, before meeting her and all that, bruh, I would have did some different things. You know what I mean? So
definitely, I agree with that.
That's what I was
definitely
thinking about. But
yeah, if I didn't carry the knowledge that I have now, I wouldn't start over because there are definitely some things that I would do differently with the same knowledge, like of how it played out. And being able to really sift through and make the right decision. Yeah.
Man, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say I probably would not end up where I am now if I started over with no knowledge.
You're so successful, Tone. You're like, you know what I mean? I'm serious. I'm proud of you. You're like 25, you're like 22 years old and farther than I was when I was 27. But
I am now 30.
Yeah, I know. But just saying. So yeah, man, I think that was. Look, I think that so far, I'm loving this episode because we talked about some great things, and just kind of have some scenarios that you guys hopefully can think about at home. Would you restart your life, or would you take $3 million instead of your kids right now? I know I wouldn't, but you might be like, man, give me the $3 million. I don't want my child. Anyway. We wanted to, like I said at the beginning of the episode, start talking about this conversation when it comes to depression. That's why we brought Alecia on. Alicia's going to kind of share a little bit of her life when it relates to dealing with depression and everything. So, Alecia, if you could kind of like form into a thought or a sentence, just say, what is depression? Like, what is that?
Yeah. So I want to start by saying I'm not a medical professional. And I think my experience with depression is not like a one size fits all kind of thing. I feel like, so I guess there are many reasons why someone can become depressed, whether it's like major life events or chemical imbalances, or it could be hereditary. But depression, what I would call is kind of like heaviness that you can't really shake. And they say usually it lasts longer than 2 weeks. So doctors say like if you're depressed for 2 weeks, or less, then it's kind of like, okay, it could just be like sadness or something. But if it lasts longer than 2 weeks, then it's usually classified as depression. And so people who are depressed or experiencing depression, they can be irritable, they can be angry, they can suffer with sleeplessness, they can sleep too long, they can eat too much. But it's usually like a loss of interest and vitality. Because I think a lot of people think it's like, oh, you're just sad. And it's like, no, it's more than that. It's more than just being sad. It's like, so you just feel hopeless, and sometimes you can't put your finger on it. So,
wow. Love that definition. And no, Alicia's not a medical professional. However, we just thought it would be important to have someone that speaks from a lens of, what she's actually experienced and gone through when it comes to depression. And I think I personally believe something to be true, but we'll discuss this, I guess, a little bit more later. But depression, I feel like it floats through anyone. It's not necessarily like,
Yep.
You mentioned that it happens through trauma, and it can happen through various other ways that it's triggered or maybe initiated. How did you know you struggled with it? How did you know you struggled with depression? What was your sign?
I think I actually struggled with depression longer than I actually, I guess, knew that I struggled with it when I was younger. So I was an only child for like 7 years. And so I was just very to myself and like very alone and like reading a lot and stuff. But there was a lot of turmoil in my home. So my father was abusive. He was very angry. And so I think I just kind of like internalized all of that. And I think because as a child, you don't really know how to process things. You're just kind of like, okay, well, this is normal life. But it wasn't until I was, I think, a teenager, like maybe 13, that like I started like self-harming myself. I started taking like pills for no reason. Like it was just, when I think back on it, it's really crazy because I'm like, literally I could have died, but like I'm still here. I would bruise myself and stuff like this. And it was because I wanted to feel something. Like I just couldn't like grasp anything. And I know that doesn't really make sense, but like I was doing all of these things in school. I was making like straight A's and all this other stuff, but it still wasn't enough. Like it didn't feel good enough. And then so that was happening when I was a child. When I got to college, I was 18. I had just broken up with someone I was supposed to marry. And my parents got divorced as a freshman in college. And so I'm usually like the go-to for my mom. And so when I was at Towson, I felt very helpless. I just felt like, oh, I'm supposed to fix everything. I can't fix everything. And so then I started drinking really heavily. And so it wasn't until I crossed into an organization that one of my sisters was like, maybe we should go to counseling. Like, maybe this is something we can, go and like talk about it with somebody else. And at first I was like, no, I'm okay. But it got really bad to like where I was like skipping meals to drink. And I know this is like a big jump, but I was like, yeah, I just wanted to feel happy. I wanted to feel joy. And that was the only way that I could feel it. And so we went to counseling. And that's when they first told me like, yeah, you struggle with, it seems like you struggle with depression. Of course, like they can't just like, oh, one meeting. They do like tests and things like that to make sure that that's what's going on. And so, yeah, that's how I found out that I was struggling with depression.
Wow.
Good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good friend.
Yeah. I love her.
I don't know if you feel comfortable diving a little bit deeper into your story.
Fine.
Okay. So when you mentioned depression in terms of not even depression, but when you mentioned your father being abusive, to what extent were we speaking to? Like verbally abusive or physically abusive? Do you want to speak to that?
Both. So first when I was younger, he was abusive towards my mom. And then when I became older, I started defending her because I'm like, you're not going to put your hands on my mother. That's just not going to happen. And so then my mother got sick because she struggles with like rheumatoid arthritis. And so it's like it's a disease. It's not just arthritis. It's from stress. Like stress triggers it. And so she literally could not do anything. So she struggled with depression herself. And so I was taking care of her. I was taking care of my younger brother. And so my father would just come in and just be wilding out. And then he started hitting me. And so at some point I'm like, yeah, no. So we would like really be fighting, like literally be fighting, fighting each other. And eventually like he left, but that trauma was still there. That was like undealt with, so
That's deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So man, thank you for sharing that. And this is kind of even not on one of the questions I had, but just hearing you talk about it. How had that affected your marriage, like to Jamal? Like how did that work out? Like with you having, because a lot of people say you marry your father, husbands, you marry your mom to some degree, and who you choose to marry when you marry your next spouse. So how did you filter through that process, if you don't mind saying?
No, sure. Which is crazy because he has the same birthday as my father, which is really strange.
Wow.
Yeah. So like today's his birthday. Today's also my father's birthday. So
Oh wow.
yeah.
That's
so
weird AF. Okay.
It's very strange. Very strange. And I don't even think I knew until like later. And I was like, wait, no, this is weird. Because I had heard that like you marry your father, like 9 times out of 10 or whatever. And so of course that was off-putting for me because I'm like, I don't really want to be with my dad. Like he wasn't. Right. And then like me and my father have started working through our issues and stuff like that. And so I give him grace to be like, he didn't know how to be a father because his father didn't know how to be a father. So it's like, okay, you only know what you know how to do. But yeah, at first, like there were issues that we had, like when we would get into arguments and stuff like that. At first, Jamal was very animated with like his arms and stuff like this. And so little things like that, I'd be like, can you not like, I would be triggered. And so even though he wasn't threatening, it was still like, to me, it automatically took me back to like my dad. You know what I'm saying? And so I would tell him like, hey, next time, can you never do that to me ever again? Like not do that to me, but like swell up on me like that again. And he's been kind enough to not to be literally like while we're arguing, like think about, okay, let me not do that. Let me calm myself. Let me be more reserved. And I think like before I met Jamal, like I had dated other men who did resemble my father in a lot of ways, whether they were emotionally unavailable, whether they were abusive and mean, or like, it's like I was trying to find a guy to be like, love me. You know what I'm saying? Like never having a man that like really love me unconditionally. Like that's what I wanted. And I feel like I took a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. And it's such a cliche, but it's true. Like, I don't care how old you get. You're always going to want the love of your father. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. I think sorry if I'm on a tangent. My aunt experienced the same kind of thing. My father's sister, and she was saying how her husband in a lot of ways was her father. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And it's like showing her love that she needed, taking care of her. Like she didn't know what that was until she met her husband. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's what Jamal is to me. Like, okay, this is what, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how a man's supposed to act, even when it's uncomfortable. So
that's great.
That is.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It comes with its difficulties, but especially on my part, because I'm just like, sometimes like it has nothing to do with him. It's just what's been going on in my mind. So yeah.
Jamal's amazing too. Like, I mean, we all knew each other from Alpha. We all crossed into Alpha Nu Omega Christian Fraternity Incorporated, and that was years ago for some of us, and actually almost all of us, because this is at least 10 years. I think everyone on this call, and we met each other through that organization. Some of us went to school together. Tony didn't go to Towson, but hey,
I did not.
Everyone could go there. All right.
Bowie State. Hello, Bowie State.
Everybody makes some bad choices in life. So.
Yeah, I'm about to say that might be his restart. We never know.
I'm just joking. We love you, Bowie.
But I appreciate you telling that, because I'm sure that is add difficulty to your relationship with him, with Jamal, I should say, like trying to not be in any way triggering for you. Within your relationship with him as a married couple, right?
Yeah, which is also kind of not fair on his part too, because it's like he wasn't there for any of the stuff. He wasn't, present for the stuff that's going on. But I do appreciate that he is thoughtful enough to try to work through it. So, if
you could isolate one moment that was probably this was the hardest moment, most difficult moment while dealing with depression. You mentioned alcohol abuse and what have you. Is there one moment or scenario that comes to mind?
I think so. I think this moment was really kind of triggered by, I guess, like my friends at the time. So people I was friends with, they knew that I was struggling with depression. And there was like almost sometimes like a daily fight. And one of my friends was telling me that if I was depressed and I didn't have my relationship right with God, right? And so they would keep saying stuff like this to me. Or that I should need counseling. God is my counselor. What else? Just very like mean. And I don't even know if they were trying to be mean. I think they were trying to be churchy. I was gonna say saved, but like be very like oh, well, God will fix all your problems and stuff like this. And I think for a while I was like, well, something is wrong with me. What is wrong with my relationship? Like, am I not like, why am I not happy? But then I'm reminded of like scripture, David's depressed. Like, you know, Job, like all these people. And in a lot of ways I felt like Job, right? Because Job's friends were like, what is wrong with you? Get up. Like you had to sin to bring this on yourself, and just being very unsupportive. And I don't think that they had ill intentions. I just feel like they didn't have the knowledge or the wisdom or the language to really be supportive. So I feel like a lot of my friends turned away from me. Like they left me, they abandoned me, they called me crazy. Oh, you're gonna be in a nut house. Like just really mean and evil things like that. So of course that brought about more depression, because it's like, oh, I'm being abandoned again. I'm being left again. Alone. Like being alone. Yeah. Like something about you is,
It's interesting because like as you're talking, so especially, and I was doing research too about like how like trauma triggers. Because I remember the 2 times I felt the most alone, and they were two different instances, but they both triggered depression for me. When I lost my grandmom, because my grandmom died in my actual bedroom, and I remember being depressed for quite some time, and I couldn't let my mom know because my mom was actually, that was her mom. Right, so it was like, so I had to like fake it for my mom, but I was depressed for a while. And funny enough, when I was put it on me, I was married before and I was engaged, and then when she left me, and it was so weird that loss, although one person died and the other person, the loss equally felt the same, because it's like you are no longer here. And I started digging to that thinking that loss is lost no matter what form it comes in, because it's still the emptiness that you no longer had. And I remember, I'm not sure John knew, but I remember that second loss. I remember I literally was about to jump over a balcony. Like we had a balcony in our apartment, and I kept staring at it for like some time, and like, just do it, like just do it, like just do it. And it's like a voice that's saying, just do it, just do it, just do it. And that's when I'm like, that's when I realized I struggled with depression, you know. And I was in counseling when I was younger, but this was like it was just like, like you really. And it's weird, but being an introvert / extrovert, which is an ambivert, is weird because you get these pockets. I get these pockets of depression, and you find things to do to cope with depression. And I'm just like kind of like your friends, or like how you might mentally like say, hey, I'm not depressed. It's just, I'm just not feeling it right now. And no, you are struggling with depression, and it may come and go. You're having a moment. And you own it in that moment, and like you said, if it gets to 2 weeks, you need to seek help. Like you have to, and that's one thing where I failed, because we try to, like, especially men, we try to tough it out. We try to say we're not that. I got this. Like, are you kidding me? I can't be depressed. Like, this is me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm doing all these things, trying to accomplish all these things. I got to get up and go to work tomorrow. I got to face these students. And I'm sitting there as a teacher, like, I don't know how I'm going to work tomorrow and face these kids, but I got to do it. Like, and it's just like, I remember that the thing that you said that triggered me was like, they can be triggered by events, and they can happen like that. And then you're in it, and then one of the things that I started doing is I would actually start cutting people off, because I'm now fighting people to bring me out of it. Like, like I'm alone. I'm blocking people off. I'm turning my phone off and this, because I don't want nobody to bring me out of it. Because even that right there is I don't know, it's like it was like doing something to you. Yeah. Like, just to just
like a burden. And
yeah. I don't want no help. Like, let me do this by myself. But then I really don't want to be alone. Like makes sense. I don't want to be alone, but I want to be alone.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, like, depression can feel comfortable. Like, oh, okay, like this sadness, I know, right? But this joy that I want to experience, because it's really hard, because I think when people see me, they're like, oh, Alicia's so happy, Alicia's so joyful. Oh, no. Like that's like that, like almost like I'm one dimensional, right? Like I just have one emotion all the time. And the truth is, I feel deeply. So if I'm happy, I'm very happy. If I'm sad, I'm very sad. If I'm angry, I'm very passionate about my anger. And so I think it was off-putting for a lot of people, when it's like, oh, the person who's, you know, really happy is not happy anymore. Oh, well, something must be wrong with her then, right? And so to me, the comfort of like the darkness of not, you know, not seeking help, because it takes work. It takes work to fight depression. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you don't have the energy to even show up for yourself, like to be like, okay, let's try to get out of bed today, or let's, you know, and it varies. I you know, understand that some people like some people it's like debilitating, and some people can, it's like walking pneumonia, right? Like it's like you can function, but it's like, oh, but I'm really sick inside. I'm not dealing with something. You know.
Yeah. As you said that, you know, I think a lot of people expect depression to look this exact way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, no, depression is not real. I don't have it, whatever. No one around me has it because it doesn't look like this.
Right.
However, you can actually be battling, you know, depression in a very slight way. And as I thought about, like, when I went away to college, like Allegheny College in Maryland, it was a bit like, you know, sleeping a lot, you know. That was a thing. Or, you know, I stayed in my room, stayed to myself. And so, like, thinking about that and the different ways that depression can play out, it was like, yeah, I probably did struggle with it, but didn't recognize it because I didn't know what it looked like, what it was, and things like that. But yeah, I think a lot of people have to do a lot of introspection. It takes a lot of work to even figure out like what you're actually dealing with, because you're going through the day to day, but you literally have to stop and like piece it all together and be like, wait, this doesn't seem right. But yeah.
A lot of what has been said has been so good.
Yeah.
You guys are really opening up, and I appreciate that. I feel like, you know, I didn't know about Terrence struggling with depression and looking at our balcony, considering jumping, like, you know, and I think it kind of presents a larger point, which is it's just not popular in our community of Black people to share weaknesses. It's just not. Like, we want to share strengths. We want to share, like you were saying, Alecia, happiness and joy. And then I think there's something to be said even about people's expectation of you to always be that thing, even when you don't feel that thing, right? Like, so you're like, I need you to be happy. I need you to be funny, this, that, and the third. And you feel like your actual feelings are like, man, I don't even know how I'm going to get through today. But you're just like, but you want to meet their expectations of you, which is just equally dangerous because you never actually feel your feelings, you know? Most of all of y'all know, I lost my mom like a month before I got married. Like, so, you know, when you talk about triggers, you know, man, there were so many triggers with that, to eating so much, like you just said, like eating a lot, drinking a lot of alcohol, and just like, it's not like overtly obvious. It's something that's just like, I just come home, like everybody drinks. You think you kind of rationalize it. You think everybody drinks when you get home, but you're doing it every single night. You're you're eating a lot, right? So my weight just like exploded once I got married. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it, I mean, clearly when you get married, you just get bigger because you just be eating out. But aside from even that, though, it's just the actual realness of, I lost my mom. You know what I'm saying? I lost somebody that was a rock within my life. And you're trying to cope, hoping that those coping mechanisms will save you from the realness of what you feel. And so, like you were saying, Alecia, I think like you were kind of, or maybe Terrence, but like mentioning that your spouse has to handle the brunt of that, because my wife, I would get mad at her just to show a feeling of some kind. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but like just like she would do something super silly, super not important, but I would just be like, man, what's wrong with you? And I'm angry at my mom not being here. I'm not angry at her. And it would be days later that I'd be like, man, so sorry. I know what that was now, but I didn't know that. I didn't have the clarity then. And we would have to revisit, and I just wouldn't share. I just wouldn't share any of that with anyone. And that's the community kind of making you feel like, you know, this, that, and the third about, you know, mental health awareness and what have you. And then on top of that, they'll be like, man, you're getting real big, you know, and you don't even realize the root of
And that's interesting, John, because you know, we're all believers here. Like I feel like sometimes that the Black church has not helped this. Like, one of the things that like about my, and because I guess I'm a very strong believer in God, but I've always been honest. I'm not really. I have issues with church. I really have very deep-rooted issues with Black church, with organized religion, or etc. Because I feel like at times where God has given us like tangible things and has pushed us towards you. I gave you the ability to seek out tangible solutions.
Mhm.
Like if you're sick, I would like you to go see a doctor. Like
Right.
that's why I created this field of medicine. That's why, like, if you believe everything about me, you know about me. That's why I created it. Not for you to be like. And so I feel like sometimes the black church, like your friends were saying, like you have a problem with God, which is why he's not doing these things. You need to get right with God. And I feel like that would be the response, like, oh, he's not crazy. You know, she just needs to. And it's not even just black church. Like as an educator. One of the things, yes, like as an educator, I'm contacted with thousands of people with types of mental health issues and etc. And if for some reason with people of color, and it could be, I'll be honest with you, it even gets worse when I'm talking from people of color who come from different like nations. Mm-hmm. Saying that your child has a mental disability or could possibly have a mental health issue is like, you don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Not my child. I'm not putting them on medicine. Like all these different things. It's just like, and when I'm like, but you don't understand, your child's not learning and they're struggling with their ability to learn. And this could be a reason you should at least seek. No, that's okay. I've had parents withdraw their kids. And after we've done what we needed to do, you know, we've done what we needed to do. Like parents have just literally picked up their kids and withdrawn them and gone to a different school, trying to like, you know, etc. So it's just like
you're talking, something comes to mind. Like one of the hardest questions that people ask and don't realize how hard it is to answer is, why didn't you say anything? Like when you ask somebody why didn't they say anything, like you have to realize like there's some feelings that you just can't describe. Yeah. You can't just answer the question, why didn't you say anything? Because the person that's asking will probably never understand. And they are the reason why you don't say anything. You know?
That's good, man. Like, anything you want to add, Alecia? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I think just this idea of mental health, and especially like, I'm just speaking as a Black person because I'm Black, but like, I think like in our community, we've never really had the space or the time or the privilege to really explore like our mental health. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always about survival. Like that's what we've been doing for, at this point, 400 years. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I think when even, and I hate to get like real like historical or whatever, but like I really feel like this plays a part because, you know, as slaves, we had to endure so much trauma and nobody spoke about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause it was a common thing. It's like, we all traumatized. Like we're all on the same, we're on the same boat here. And so I think this idea, like you go from slavery to now, or even like to the civil rights era, like, right. So you see Black people then versus enslaved. It's like, oh, well, we're privileged now, so we should be happier. We should be better suited for like life and things like that. But the truth is like this trauma, this even like abuse and stuff like that, that's generational. Like that doesn't just happen. You know what I'm saying? This alcoholism, that's generational. Like, yes, like even when people talk about like spiritual things, I also think just like familiar. Like if your father doesn't, as a Black man in the 50s, doesn't feel like he can really express himself, you know what I'm saying? And everybody's just like, well, just keep on going, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and keep it pushing. And your parents don't give you the room to like, be like, hey dad, I'm sad. You know, it's like, put that sadness away. We got stuff to do. There's never enough time. And I feel like now there's a privilege that I have that maybe my mom didn't have, that maybe my grandmother didn't have, where I can go to counseling, where even though it's still looked down on, I still feel like it's more acceptable now. Like, and even when I first went to counseling, there was still some like rebuttal, I think, with my mom, because I don't think she really understood it. Like me accepting that I have a problem is a problem for her. And it's like, why is that a problem for you? Like, no, like I do need help. And I think everybody can benefit from counseling, not just people who are depressed or like who are struggling. Everybody can benefit from counseling. And I think there's a privilege that I have now that my ancestors, yes, did not have. And so I'm going to take advantage of that privilege, and I'm going to go to counseling because I don't want my kids to be screwed up because of stuff I didn't deal with. And I understand I can't fix everything. Like I can't protect my kid from everything because I'm not perfect. But at the same time, I want my kid to feel comfortable enough to be like, yeah, I'm feeling a little down. Is this normal? Like, yeah, no, let's take a self-care day. You know what I'm saying? Like, and let's really explore these feelings instead of just like pushing them down because we're so busy trying to do everything else, trying to survive. I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, that was great. I think that that's very true. And we're not made, like you said, we never have space to even think or breathe about the reality of this is what I'm really feeling. This is how I've experienced X, Y, and Z, triggered by X, Y, and Z. Now I have to, can I feel my feelings, please? Like you have to almost ask permission to feel your feelings in a real way. And especially in a culture where every success is viewed as like you're being happy, you look happy, Instagram happy, Facebook happy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so in the world of today where everything is like, I'd rather at least look happy than actually be happy. That's the wave, you know. So it's layered. It's not even just like the one layer of, oh, this is how years ago, you know, historically we were oppressed. It's like, yeah, we were oppressed. On top of that, we don't really talk about our feelings. On top of that, there's some unspoken cultural things that we just do. Like you just know not to bring up depression because then you look crazy amongst your people. And then on top of that, you associate weighing weight to just gaining weight to just not that you're depressed, you just fat, like because culturally we're just supposed to be fat. Like it's just so many things that are embraced as this is the cultural norms versus no, this actually a deeper rooted issue that has never been exposed, and maybe now I can feel my feelings to expose them. Go ahead, T.
No, I think that's one thing you said. Alecia said is that I'm glad Lisa talked about counseling because I've and just so to be clear, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later too. But like depression is only one side of mental health, you know, but it's a very strong side, and it's also a side that's very hard to diagnose and oftentimes hard to treat too. And so it's just like and yeah, some people will be able to, like I think like I was at least at some points able to pull myself in and out of it, like without counseling. I emphatically believe I should have gotten myself in counseling immediately. One of the things as I got older I was able to do is realize, like, I think it's important realizing your triggers. What triggers these moments of depression? And I know for me, social media is a huge trigger, and so that's why I pull myself from it.
Why do you say social media is a huge trigger?
I think I struggle with comparison. I think I'm supposed to be here, and seeing myself not there and constantly seeing that, and that might be like I'll give a perfect example. That might be me getting bad news about something that I have to pay, and now I don't like when my expectations change, and like with anything. And so now I have money that I thought I had that didn't come in, and then mixing that, I might see something on social media. Mixing that, I might see this. Like, you know what? And so before it used to just weigh on me, but now I just said, you know what? Let me close out of social media. So I'll just delete it from my phone, and I'll give myself a time limit when I'm mentally able to go back to it. And I'm saying that, like, even as a man, because a lot of people think that's just women do. Like, as a man, I have to do that. Like, you know, as I have to like say, yo, I gotta be ready to go back to this. Otherwise, like, you know, and so it's just knowing your triggers is really important. And some people you won't be able to find it out without going to counseling. And so the more and more I got in my field, and the more and more that I've encountered like young people who have mental health issues, it's perfectly it's not a death sentence. It is a health related issue. And so you seek out a professional, like, and so it's just like I am a huge fan of counseling, and I'm glad that like school districts are becoming more and more concerned with this, like putting more money in towards how can we get people in the building who deal with mental health. Like, no, you don't get a class. You are here for mental health. You are here to deal with like students who we already know have these challenges, and we need more, you know, PRP services and different type of things that we can have. That's what schools like my schools are driving towards, because it is the number one leading cause of why students are not successful. It's because of mental health. It's not poverty. It's not race. Right now, it is mental health. And so it's just like counseling to me was I'm glad you mentioned it. It's such a big thing that I wish people take advantage of. And Alecia, you mentioned something earlier about how we did not have the privilege, and that privilege was really like money. Like you couldn't tell black people to go fight. Like you can't tell a lot of black people now. Everybody doesn't have health care. I was just like not debating, but talking to a friend of mine about that who was talking about COVID. Like, why don't people have money saved up? And why don't you you are privileged, and as a black person, you are now privileged. And we call this. We actually call it in my training. It's called you've now come to what we call whiteness. Like you are now you've transitioned as a black person where you think these things just come like naturally, and everybody does not have access to healthcare. You think they do, but they don't. And so, why don't you have money saved up? Like everybody does not have it, and so every white person doesn't have it, but I can best believe every black person definitely does not have it. Like so it's just like black people, when you really think about it, is because of the trauma we've gone through just through centuries, and because of like fighting through like Jim Crow, and then being the first groups to be able to go to college, we are still pulling ourselves out of. As a people, out of poverty, so we are more likely to experience trauma, depression, more than any other race. But we're also the least equipped to fight it. So it's just like we're getting it from both sides. And so I'm really grateful that this topic came up, because anytime we can shed light to it about how it, like as a black person, listen, you could get it. Like and it's okay. It's not a death sentence.
It's almost like the coronavirus. Like you're almost more likely to get it because you're black, not because like it's not like like you frame it the correct way. Like, bruh, you are more likely to deal with depression because you're usually gonna have lower income coming in. You're probably not gonna have as many access to healthcare professionals. There are a lot of things stacked against you in the idea of you dealing with depression. So that's a very true point, T. And one thing I want to say, like even real quick, like what you was mentioning about the money thing. I listened to Kevin Hart's podcast talking about Straight from the Heart on Sirius XM, and he mentioned something that illuminated you in my mind about like, man, you kind of envisioned this thing that was like Kevin Hart. Oh, he don't struggle like we struggle. He don't deal with things as we deal with them because he's Kevin Hart. He makes all this money, and he alluded because he said he gets like 40 to 50 calls maybe a day or a week or whatever of people asking him to give them money. So he's just like, bro, I have it all. He said, when I talk to those people, he says, I have a staff, I have offices leased that I still have to pay. I got to pay my bills. I got to pay for this, that, and the third. He kind of listed it out to them to help them understand I'm in the same predicament as you. So when you talk about like the elitism in the black community, it's like we have a very skewed view of what money even looks like on various levels, because everyone has to fight to keep their level of status of what they have going on. Like whatever I have, my house, my bills, my whatever, y'all don't have my bills, I don't have y'all's, so we all have to fight to keep our whatever little bit we have. And I think it made me really like, man, wow, I never thought about that. Even Kevin Hart, who was probably most prepared, has millions and millions of dollars, his money still leaving his account while no more new money's coming in, and he's just like, I'm in the same predicament as y'all. So just kind of bringing that to the forefront. One thing that I wanted to ask Alecia real quick is this: have you always been this open about depression? Because you kind of mentioned that you said it early on, and people were like, "Man, I'm done with you," type thing. So how'd you deal with that? Like, were you still sharing with people that depression was a real issue for you, or once people just carried you, you was just like, "Let me internalize this," like,
Yeah. No, I wasn't always as open about it. Like I mentioned before, it just wasn't talked about in our house. Like, we knew people were sad, and again, it might be because I didn't have the language, but I didn't think like, oh, this is like something that could be like clinically diagnosed, right? And so when, again, the first time I went to counseling with my friend, shout out to Ade, she took me and she actually paid for me to go. And so this mention about money, like, yeah, it was expensive. And so I'm like, and I'm in college, I can't really deal with this. And also, just kind of a side note, I think it's also important if you do go to counseling, just for me, I like having Black counselors because it makes you feel less like a social case. Like, I feel like whenever I went to like white counselors, they're always like, oh, poor you. Oh, right. Like, oh, and I'm like, no, like, you're supposed to be helping me, not feeling bad for me.
Right.
But I think it's with the help of those kind of counselors that actually, like, they were like, a Black person with my face is saying, okay, like, you know, like one, I've heard worse, but also like, it's okay. Like, this is normal. Like, what you're experiencing, it makes sense. What you've been through in your life, like, it makes sense. And I think having a good support system, when I crossed into NQ, I went down to Howard a lot. And so the women there were very supportive of me, even if the people at my school weren't. So while I was in like a depressive state or whatever, one of my friends would just let me go over her house and lay in her bed all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, and being okay with just like feeling what I'm feeling and not trying to fix me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of people, because they don't know what to say, like they want to be like, okay, like even with Jamile, because I think guys usually tend to do this, and it's kind of like we want to fix it. Like you want to fix it. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
You're sad. What are we doing right now? And it's like, no, actually, sometimes I just want you to be like, okay, that sucks. You want me to lay here with you? Like, I can lay here with you in your sadness, like whether figuratively or like, you know, just like literally laying next to me.
Yeah.
But I think with good support systems and things like that, I think it's helped me to be more open about being depressed. And it's crazy because where I am now, where I'm not ashamed of it, I'm not like, oh, okay, something's wrong with me. It took years to get to that point. Like, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I went to counseling. Okay, now I'm going to be open about it. No, like everyone was fighting me along the way. Like, even when we talked about like drinking, how I would skip meals and stuff like that to literally drink. Like, a lot of the friends I was hanging around, they thought it was normal. You know, it's college culture, but then also like, oh, Alecia, you're more fun when you drink because you're happy now and you're not sad. Like, people literally saying stuff like that to me. So I'm like, okay, you know, so it's easier to pretend with these people, but being around the right people really made me feel like, okay, I'm not alone. And then also social media, while it does have its downsides, there are a lot of people who are sharing their personal stories and their personal journeys.
Right.
And I think it's starting to become like a new wave, right? Because I don't want it to become sexy. Like depression, I don't want like mental health to become like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
because it can be. It can, especially people where mental health, where their mental health issue could be because like what I've noticed in some of them, some depressions is coupled with ADD, ADHD, and so the part that they're depressed also ties into the part where they're attention seeking, and so it's not that it's sexy, it's actually feeding their. It's feeding them the attention they're getting. Yeah. And so I've had students who the reason why she cut herself was the attention she got when she cut herself. Yeah. And so she's not cutting herself like for any trigger. Right. Which is the fact that at that point she knew people would gravitate towards her to try to pull her out and get attention, and that's how she sought attention. Yeah. And so No, to that. I think it's scary too, because you can like search a hashtag and it says depression, and then there are photos of people who have cut themselves, photos of people who are like, you know, that's what I mean, like by sexy, like, oh, like let me, like, it's like depression culture almost. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That gets dangerous. But I'm glad that there are people who are like, yeah, I struggle with depression and I'm fighting it, or I'm trying to, or I'm sad today and it's okay. And just to make you feel like, okay, I'm not crazy and I'm not alone. And so I think having, again, a good support system, also like being with yourself, even if your family is not like accepting of like, and again, I hate to make it sound like that, like you're like coming out or something, but no, like if your family doesn't know how to handle it, be okay with like, well, maybe they had to deal with that stuff and they never had the opportunity to deal with it. And I'm hoping that my being open with it frees my mom, frees my aunts, frees my grandmother, like stuff like that, to see like, no, actually, like what you've been through is valid. What you've been through is something you don't have to fix. And one other point I wanted to bring up, I'm sorry, when you were talking about counseling, when my friend told me, you shouldn't need counseling because you have the Lord, right? And he is the counselor, right? In scripture, but the comforter.
Like, right, exactly. Like, no, like God put us here to be in community. Like, if we weren't supposed to be in community, he wouldn't have all the mandates that he has for us to be in community. But also his word says, seek wise counsel. Like, like literally seek wise counsel. Like, yes, like you're not supposed to have your relationship with God in a vacuum. You know what I'm saying? There are people in your life that you can actually go to, that you should be able to bare your heart and your soul to. Not everybody, but some people, to be able to, one, seek support, and then also wisdom. So, you know, if you telling your friend, I wish my friend who told me that sought wisdom before she spoke to me. You know what I'm saying? This is why we have community. This is why we have people in place to be like, no, that's probably not the best thing to say, or people to hold you accountable, you know? But yeah, I think, again, being open it has been a journey. It wasn't just like oh yeah, I'm depressed. Yay. Like, no,
Right.
it's, at first it was a lot of shame. And then it came to like, okay, no, this is normal. And then reading scripture, seeing people like huge figures in the Bible who Jesus, like, you know what I'm saying? Jesus was, in my opinion, depressed a lot of times, like, you know, like, and so,
Oh yeah.
so if Jesus himself, the Son of God, you know what I'm saying, is depressed, like, okay, then there is hope for me, but also too, like, a person with no sin is suffering, then it has nothing necessarily to do with something I've done wrong. So that brought comfort and solace too.
That's good. Tony, you had something?
No, I was just, as we're talking about this, you know, I'm thinking about something that a lot of people don't really talk about. Middle child syndrome. You know, I talk about it with, you know, my wife and stuff like that, which is, because things come up now, it's just like, well, but it's, to me, it's like, it's very real. Like, you feel left out, you feel like no one cares, you feel like you're not getting the attention that you need, you're not really getting any of that stuff. You know, your younger sibling is getting all the attention because they're the youngest. The oldest is getting whatever they want because they may be doing something that they can do and they get all the attention. Like my brother played sports and I have a younger sister. And then there's me, you know. So this is something that also plays into depression in a lot of ways and a lot of other things that happen to adults that are not spoken about. And this is something that I don't think a lot of people speak about. Or how it impacts them as a person, as an individual, their friendships, you know, their family dynamic and things like that. Even though you may have love, you don't feel it. It's not being done how you need it. And you start to act out to get attention, you know, kind of like, you know, like you were saying, you know, you bruise yourself to, you know, feel something, or, you know, cutting, like Terrence said, you know, cutting yourself to get the attention. You act out in ways to get the attention that you are seeking, and a lot of times you're left alone, you know, to figure out your feelings, because you can't talk to your older sibling, can't talk to your parents. Being Black, it's like suck it up and just go outside or whatever, get over it. So that's all I wanted to say.
Good stuff.
It's good.
What triggers your depression? Is there anything specific that triggers it? Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So I think, like Terrence said, social media, for a lot of the same reasons, whether it be comparison, or sometimes it's hard because I feel, and I think we all feel as humans, but I'm a very feeling person. If someone is sad, I'm going to cry. If somebody's, you know, like you just can't like help it. And so I think sometimes scrolling through social media, it's such an emotional whirlwind. One post is like, oh, my dad died. One other post is like, oh, we're pregnant. Yay. Another post is like, oh, I just bought a house. And to me, it's too much. It's like, it's just too, it's too much. And I can't keep up. And then I feel, then when someone posts something sad and I go to something happy, I feel guilty for being happy for them when I was just sad like 2 posts ago. It's a crazy cycle. So stuff like that triggers me. And then also, I think just thinking about some things that happened to me. Abandonment is a big one. Again, because the person who I'm half of, the guy who made me, left us. And so when, you know, your parent just leaves, it makes you just feel like, makes me feel like, because not everybody feels that way. Makes me feel like, well, was I not worth staying? Like, how do you leave? You know, I see fathers looking at their daughters adoringly and like lovingly, and just like, I can't imagine my world without them now. And I just can't I can't make it make sense to leave something creative. Like, I think about if we have kids, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. You know what I'm saying? And because being an option was like that with my dad, I feel like, Again, in relationships I was in, it was like that. I was an option, or friendships. It was an option. Like, oh, it's really easy to leave you, Alecia. Like, it's fine. Even though I invest a lot in my relationships. Like when I say I love you, I mean it. When I say I'm there, I'm there. And I think for people to just kind of leave people, I don't understand that. And so when stuff like that happens, it's very triggering. And also striving. Striving is a trigger for me because, and when I say striving, I don't mean trying to better yourself for the sake of bettering yourself or whatever. I think striving to me is like trying to do something beyond God, if that makes sense. So trying to make things happen for myself without God's help, trying to like force things to happen. Like even like I mentioned before, we had jobs lined up back in the DMV, and because of the virus, everything got shut down. Like I was depressed for like a month because I'm just like, I'm broke. I never had no job. I never not had no job. Like I've been working since I've been 16. I've had 3 jobs at once. Like I want to be able to provide for myself. And in this state of like rest, where God has been calling me to rest, like I have been depending on other people like this whole time because I had to quiet my pride, right? It's like, oh, actually, you think you're the one doing all this stuff. Actually, it's me, you know? So having food because we're at Jamal's parents' house, like having somewhere to stay, literally humbling myself and accepting help. And also quieting that spirit in me that needs to strive, that needs to like, I need to be doing better. I need to always be improving. And I can never just sit with myself still enough to appreciate where I am, to be thankful for where I am, and to really appreciate the process. I don't even know if that makes sense. Just in life in general.
It's such a tension though, right? Because you know, because you want to, it's like, I want to like strive, but I also don't want to strive. Like, it's like, you know, so it's a tension that you
it's a balance.
Yeah.
And I think like the pressure is everywhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you gotta, and I think that's why, like, one of the videos I posted, I was so frustrated because I kept seeing these, and I think people posted it with good intentions. Like, you know, if you don't come out of this, you know, out of quarantine without like a job or like a hobby or like a business or something, it means that something like you did not have the time. You just didn't, I don't know, something about like dedicating it or whatever. And so, and it's like hustle culture. I hate hustle culture. I hate it with a passion. Like I hate it. Like, and I get it. Like, cause yes, I do want to make things happen. I do want to build a business. I do want to, accumulate wealth and all this other stuff. But at what price? At what is the expense of it? Is it worth my mental health? Is it worth my physical health? Is it worth the health of my marriage, of my relationship with my family, my friends? No, it's not worth that. Like, because at the end of the day, if I acquire all this wealth, like, and I have no one to share it with, if I have no one to be there with, like, I'd rather be broke and filled with love. And I know that sounds so romantic, but it's true. Like, I would rather be broke and surrounded with love than be striving and working. And people die at like 60 of heart attacks because they're trying to accumulate wealth for their families and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, like what matters are these relationships. You know what I'm saying? And then surprisingly, when you have good relationships, you're provided for anyway. Like what good friend is going to let you, like, not saying you're going to mooch off people your whole life, but like,
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And the connections you build, like that usually gets you to the next place, not like anything by your own effort. Sure. And it's hard because like you talk about the tension, because it's like, even as an artist, I'm like, yeah, I want to improve, or yeah, I want to be making money, and 6 figures sounds great. And that would change someone's life. But I think that, sorry, I'm trying to get my point. I just lost it. Dang it. Okay. Yes. I think the issue is when, again, like we look at all these millionaires and stuff like that, and these like Jeff Bezos or whoever, like, what did it take? What did it cost for them to be wealthy? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who work under them work in horrible conditions. They don't get paid. They're not being paid well. They don't have good health care. And I think when it comes down to it, like even in the Bible, like those empires will fall. You know what I'm saying? Like this idea of like acquiring wealth is like, it breeds discontentment. That's my whole point. It breeds discontentment, and I don't want to be discontent. I want to be content with, like, as the word says, like with little or a lot. Like I want to be in a place where I'm not necessarily like, oh, I have to make this happen. I'm not happy right now because I'm broke. Like, yeah, I'm not happy because I'm broke. But at the same time, all my needs are provided for. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can still be good. I can still be useful even in this state right now. So I don't know.
No, that was really good. You just listened to part 1 of our podcast. We will be doing part 2 on our next week episode. So stay tuned, guys. Continue to listen to us and support us on our social platforms. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. Talk to you soon.